Hello everyone, welcome back to the last segment of the day's show on the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show thus far, but we will continue our show with our last segment, and that is the New York Jets and their prop bets. So, talking about the AFC East, right? We now have 3 teams that people believe can truly challenge for only perhaps 2 spots to get into the playoffs. The Bills, I talked about earlier, the Dolphins, who we'll get to later, and now the Jets. And out of all those teams, I think it's safe to say that the Jets might just be the most intriguing because they have such a fascinating setup at every single position that they feel works. But at the QB position, they're relying on someone who might just be over the hill. And so, I don't necessarily hinge the entirety of the Jets season on Aaron Rodgers, but it certainly feels as if this season isn't a success, the Jets somewhere along the line have got to feel like they failed here. Because this is a generation where a lot of things can happen. This is a generation where you can tie down someone for a long period of time to a team-friendly deal to get you over the hump. That's kind of like what the Texans are doing right now. And the Jets decided that Aaron Rodgers was going to be the guy. Last year, obviously, injured within 4 snaps of the NFL season. This year, coming off that torn Achilles at 40 years old, Aaron Rodgers is expected to lead a very exciting offense, perhaps to the Super Bowl, as many pundits believe. And around all of this, the Jets have never really looked inward. And so, I want to say that the Jets are a team that's primed for a breakout season. I want to say that the Jets deserve this moment in their history. They deserve to get the fruits of their labor out of this team. But when I think about the decision making that they've made, when I think about the fact that Aaron Rodgers, at this point in his career, perhaps is over the hill, once and for all, I can't get behind that fact. You can waste a couple of years with this team, but you can't waste all of them. Because all of these players in about 5 or so years are going to become more expensive, and it's going to become less likely that you're going to tie down several of them. You're going to lose a lot of these players in 5 or so years. And so in this period of time, do you really want a 40-year-old quarterback at the position? A lot of people are saying if he's just serviceable, well, then the Jets, well, the sky's the limit for them. But I don't think it just comes down to that. I just think it comes down to the internal issues that I feel the Jets have, because it's one thing to start a guy like Zach Wilson when Aaron Rodgers goes down. It's another thing to insist he's the right option, because it was clear, glaringly clear, that it was not the best option to start Zach Wilson. And so the Jets feel like they have to atone for a lot of different things. And it all starts with what Aaron Rodgers does for this team. And if he immediately makes it a contender that people should be talking about a lot more. Which brings us to our first kind of betting odd for this Jets team. Aaron Rodgers over or under 26.5 pass TDs. And I think that's just a god-awful assessment of what Aaron Rodgers is now. Because I don't really think that anyone wants him to throw for over 26.5 passing touchdowns. And he's not. I don't think he himself expects to throw for over 26.5 passing touchdowns. And if we hear about all the things that Aaron Rodgers is saying surrounding the Jets, there seems to be a lot more tension than people believe. Aaron Rodgers is not a guy who comes in and doesn't air his opinions. He's a guy who's going to immediately come out and have opinions about certain things. He's going to tell it like it is. And the Jets have really never had anyone quite like him at the position. And this kind of blends into the internal issues, because if Aaron Rodgers is calling out certain things, how will the coaching staff react? Because at the end of the day, they feel like they have power, but in all reality, Aaron Rodgers always will have more power than many NFL head coaches in terms of decision making. It's just because of how experienced he is in this league. And so, even when I look at this kind of betting line, a minus 125, I would have to say that in order for Aaron Rodgers to even be anywhere near the 20s, he would have to immediately diagnose the weaknesses, not just in the team itself, but in the coaching staff, and he has to address them quickly, because there needs to be a culture where everyone can get behind Aaron Rodgers, because if Aaron Rodgers does not see something he likes, that frustration and tension will show in his play. So Aaron Rodgers needs to have at least something to his liking to grab hold of, to really point out, to really make him stand out, that will get him anywhere near this number, because at this current moment in time, it doesn't seem like it. 26.5 touchdowns is gaudy for anyone. That's a lofty expectation to place on someone who feels as if their dissatisfaction is real on the New York Jets, where everyone's expecting him to do well. And so that's definitely going to play a role. Let's talk about the week 1 over-under against the San Francisco 49ers. Oh, this is going to be a fascinating storyline here. We're talking about one of the best quarterbacks over the past decade over one of the best new quarterbacks in the league. And we think about how the Jets and 49ers have built their teams. And we talk about how both of these coaching staffs have gotten to the points that they are at. It's almost laughable to compare the Jets to a franchise that's so well run like the 49ers. Every single coach, every single player, every single part of the 49ers operation understands one another. They understand what they need to do. They're making team-friendly deals to continue this team. Even if Brandon Ayuk leaves, they're still perhaps the best team talent-wise in the NFL right now. And now let's look at the Jets. The Jets could have been this. The Jets didn't necessarily foreshadow what they could be. And it's the mistakes of drafting Zach Wilson. It's the mistakes of potentially picking Aaron Rodgers as a quarterback who can get them there, and then wasting a lot of money should this project not work. And now the Jets are in such a pivotal season where the burdens are there. I'm not saying that the 49ers' burdens aren't there, because the 49ers haven't won the Super Bowl and that's been their ultimate goal, but they've at least reached it because they've understood what they needed to get there. And they've understood the structure of their team needed to get there. And the Jets haven't understood that. The over-under right now is 44.5. And I think it's going to go under, with the 49ers scoring the majority of the points in this game. It's not going to be pretty for the New York Jets in this opening game. And it won't be pretty if they don't figure out internally and off the field what makes this team so polarizing. Everything needs to go right. Every cog in the machine needs to spin in sync for the Jets. And I just don't see it happening with a disgruntled Aaron Rodgers and a coaching staff that didn't foresee what the Jets really are. And that is a talented team with too many questions at the QB position to count. And that's a huge problem that they're going to have to overcome. We'll just about do it for today's show. Thank you guys for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe to the show as a whole. This has been the GSMC Fantasy Sports Podcast. Consider leaving a tip or donation at the link gsmc.cloud. It is greatly appreciated by all concerned. My name is Christopher Shepard. Thank you guys yet again for tuning in. We'll be back better than ever tomorrow for another edition.